Welcome to SETPRO's Having Fun with Physics. Today we're going to examine a statement by Brent Pourciau. And what he says is, of course, linear momentum converts to rotational momentum in the body. Legs and hips work like pistons and rods. And he is kind enough to provide a very nice illustration of his belief system, which you see here in the left-hand corner. What I've done is create my own representation of that system, and I think you'll see that it is a reasonable. So let's start this back up again. So this is, if you can see, it's moving a little bit faster than what Brent had. This would be typical of a reciprocating type motion. I think most of you are familiar with this, and let me pause this for a second. Stop this. What we have here is a flywheel and a connecting rod and a force being applied that was applied here. This would be the same as a reciprocating engine in your car. And what starts the whole process is there's an explosion. And we'll go back here. There's an explosion that takes place, and this long arrow represents force. And what I'm doing is I'm applying 50 pounds of force here to a rotational object that has a mass of 100 pounds. Just pick some relative numbers to give you a feel. And what I'm showing here is the force that's being applied to this point on the rotating, call this a crankshaft if you will, and the duration of the simulation is shown here, and the velocity, the rotational velocity of the crankshaft or the circle. So let me run that again. And you can see that this is running at about 500 degrees per second. That's the rotational speed rate of the flywheel. So let me stop that. Let me reset this again. So all well and good. Connecting rod, explosion, force. Now, there's a couple things here. If you're talking about throwing a baseball, just remember these for the next time and that on my next presentation, because I don't have time to do everything today. But this is a force, and what's important is I'm applying this force as an explosion or as a short-term force. It's not being applied continuously. What it is, it's only being applied for 0.15 seconds. And if I slow this down, that's what it will help you better see. Zero. Okay. All right. So we're starting off with a 45-degree angle here. That's important. I want to mention that. In other words, this circle or this crankshaft is starting with a 45-degree offset. If you measured the angle between, this is 0 degrees and this is 90 degrees, it's roughly a 45-degree angle, and that's what I've set here. Now we're going to look at this over a longer period of time. So, oops, I lied to you. Okay, world accuracy 0, 0, enter. Okay, I think that's did that. Okay, now let's try it again. Run. Okay, see that? Now pause this for a second. Stop. What's happening here is I'm 0.126 seconds into the simulation, and I have a 50 pounds of force being applied here to the x direction. Now there's also a force in the y direction because of vector. If you know anything about vectors, you have x direction. This is at an angle, so you have a force that would be being applied in the x direction, and you'll have a force that would be being applied in the y direction. So the x direction force is 50 pounds, rough 49.99. Wonderful world of this accuracy of this program is carries it out to too many places sometimes, and you get 16.7 pounds here for a total force of 52 pounds. Down here, this is what we're going to see, rotational velocity. So I'll continue with the simulation, and what happens is now stop. I'm a quarter of a second into the simulation. My force here is to the -4 power, meaning negligible force, basically whatever friction, inertia here of the rod being pulled along, and this. So the net force is basically 0.001 pounds. So basically no force here that's being applied. Force because of inertia of the little bit of inertia of this rod being yanked along. So I'll let this continue to run. And what we've done is we're now at a fixed velocity, rotational velocity. Now what I'm going to do is to stop this. And again, I did all this hopefully so you can get a better feel for what's happening here. I'm going to change the angle. This is critical now. I'm going to change, instead of starting off at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to start off at a 0-degree angle. And this is something that I want you to remember for my next presentation. I'll refresh you. I'm going to start off with 0. I haven't changed anything else, and I'm going to keep this with a slow time frame so you can see that I'm not fooling you. I'm going to start this, run it, and then I'm going to stop it. Okay. I'm at 50 pounds on this pin, 50 pounds. There's very little Y force because there's no angle here now. I'm going to keep running this. Stop it again. I'm still at 50 pounds. And run it again. I'll run it up to a quarter pound. If you remember before, once I got to 0.25 seconds, I have no more force here because I had this set up so that I was only applying it to 0.15 seconds. What's happening? I'm going to let it run. What's happening? Nothing's happening. This is not moving. We're still applying, we're still running in real time, but this is not moving. I'll stop this. The reason we're not moving is because the force is collinear. The force where I'm applying the point of force, everything is collinear, meaning everything lies on the same plane. There is no moment arm. I have said this for years and years and years. From a hitting standpoint, one of the arguments I've engaged in, persuasion, argument, whatever you want to try to call it, is that pushing off the back leg with a hitter, the concept, the belief is that, pushing off the back leg is going to create hip rotation. And the example I used was Jeff Bagwell, and if I have time, I'll dig that clip out, where Jeff Bagwell, who was just elected by the Hall of Fame, by the way, was a Connecticut boy, Bagwell had no stride. There was no stride. So therefore, how could he create rotation in the hips? There was no movement forward. Basically, he lifted his leg, rotated, came down, and hit the baseball. The point being is that this pushing off the rubber and bracing up off the front side is a fallacy. It doesn't create the rotation. And I'll try to explain that in more detail next time.